Instagram, and TikTok, giving you complete control over your business. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/au/special offer today.
It's going to be a giant trade period for the Giants. They've got plenty on, and they could be losing plenty as well. We already know Isaac Cumming is headed to Adelaide, but you report on afl.com.au this morning that his midfield teammate at the Giants, James Peatling, also has interest from the Crows.
Yeah, that's right. And it would be the Crows trying to grab a giant coup, really, to package up Isaac Cumming as a free agent with James Peatling as a trade in. So James Peatling last week met a number of clubs as he decides on what he does next in his footy journey, because he is a man in demand. One of those clubs was the Crows. He was in Adelaide to catch up with them. And it's interesting because there's been, half the competition is nearly chasing him now. Adelaide's interest to this point had not been known. There'd been a mystery floating club in the chase for James Peatling. Well, it's Adelaide. So the Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, Collingwood, West Coast, Melbourne have all been interested, and has been reported over the last couple of weeks, particularly on Gettable over the last month. He's also got a 3-year deal from the Giants who want to keep him. But the Peatling interest from Adelaide is real. It's strong, and they are trying to grab two Giants in one hit. And there is a link there, clearly. They're pretty tight with each other as well, Cumming and
both academy
Peatling,
boys.
both academy players. And yeah, I think that's something that he's certainly weighing up. Looking at it from the outside in, I think West Coast is considered unlikely now in the chase for Peatling. I think that move going west and some of the other clubs probably pushing ahead in the race for him makes them. I don't have them in the race anymore.
Okay.
So I think Adelaide is certainly in that race, though, as are a couple of clubs, particularly in Victoria. And he could still remain at the Giants as well. He's been weighing all these things up. How linked is his decision to that off Harry Perryman, who's got a call to make, and we expect that in the coming days as well, in his free agency decision. But James Peatling certainly has that interest from the Crows. And looking at the Crows midfield mix, I think it's a strong target. And, you have to go for these players. You have to throw your hat in the ring and have a crack. And that's what 7 clubs now are doing, including the Giants, of course, as well, who want to retain him. But it is phenomenal, the amount of interest that has risen for him in the second half of this season.
We don't get very often to a point where there's 7 days until the trade period starts and there's 7 clubs interested in a player, and he's still deciphering where he wants to go. He's more popular than Pesto the Penguin at the moment, is James Peatling.
Just on Pesto. Can I be honest? Can I be honest? I don't know if you know this, but I interviewed Katy Perry last week. Until Katy Perry was in town, I didn't know who Pesto was. The only thing I knew about Pesto was...
Are you across Moodeng?
No. The only thing I knew about Pesto was that it was the sauce I put on my pasta. That's a big penguin, though.
He's a big penguin. And James Peatling is a big trade target for a lot of clubs. But when we talk about Adelaide's interest, how does it look for Adelaide? Because I look at their midfield at the moment. Jordan Dawson, who's obviously their captain, Rory Laird, Jake Saligo, Matt Crouch went through there last year. And then I thought their best looks last year were when either Isaac Rankin or Josh Rochelle went through the midfield. So, where does he fit amongst that mix? And
you're going to see more of that next year, aren't we? With Rochelle and Rankin.
Yeah, I think you have to.
I just look at their overall mix and think the Crows aren't that far away from being inside that top 6 to 8. I just think they need to get some fitness for their key players. They were rocked by the Thilthorpe injury at the start of the season, and then Rankin in and out with different things. So I know that's the best case scenario for every team. Looks pretty good, but I think for them, they're not actually as far away as we probably think, and probably can look from the outside as well. If you come out of the trade period with Alex Neil-Bullen, which will be one of the first deals done next Monday, I'd expect. I think it'd be a surprise if that didn't happen next week early on, with pick 25 up for grabs there and on the table to get that one done with the Melbourne Footy Club, given his contract. So Alex Neil-Bullen, Isaac Cumming, if they can land James Peatling as part of that as well, and then really nail that pick 4, which Sid Draper, Harvey Langford, Jagger Smith, one of these guys, again, is going to be right in that mix, Sam Lawler too, then you come out of the trade and free agency and draft window with a much improved group. Like, all those guys are going to be improvements on their specific positions
Yes.
coming into the group. So I like the fit, and I think that Peatling as a bigger-bodied, versatile ball winner, but also has some outside stuff to his game as well. I see why the appeal is strong.
It'll make for an interesting trade negotiation because they've got pick 4, which they're not going to want to part with under any circumstances. Then their next selection is 25, which will get pushed back. And I think if you're the Giants, you're probably looking at it thinking, well, 7 clubs are after him. They might want more. We've got a 3-year deal on the table. We might want more than just that. So that'll be...
If he's moving, it's probably a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And clubs have 4 or 5 year deals on the table for James Peatling now. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. What do the Giants do, though? Because we've mentioned Peatling, we've mentioned Perryman, Isaac Cumming is going to Adelaide, Wade Dirksen has requested a trade to Melbourne, Xavier O'Halloran has interest in the Western Bulldogs, Connor Stone is still to re-sign. What do they bring in, Cal?
Well, the Giants are exploring interest in Jake Stringer. It hasn't progressed far at this stage and would only be a late trade period option, potentially. But there is a link at the Giants with Jason McCartney, who, of course, is the Giants' footy boss. He was part of the Bulldogs recruiting team that took Stringer back in 2012,
Yep.
and who saw him become a premiership winner in 2016, of course, with the club. The list built in a lot of ways by McCartney and also Simon Dalrymple there at the Dogs. So he's got the link there, and Stringer has that link. So Stringer has told plenty of people he's played his last game for Essendon. In saying that, he did train at the footy club a week or two ago alongside Zach Merritt and a couple of other teammates, and he does have a contract for next year at Essendon. But it could also, in terms of the Giants' interest, depend a little bit on who they do lose and how many list spots they have and how available and ready they are to take some experience to replace some of those players that we think are on the way out. So if Perryman and Peatling follow coming, then as you mentioned, Xavier O'Halloran has that interest from the Western Bulldogs. He is contracted. Dirksen isn't going to be an experienced loss, but also is a depth player to add to that group. Do they have the list spots and the more financial needs as well to give something or present something to Stringer that could entice him to move states? I don't think in an ideal world Stringer would be moving out of Victoria, but at the moment there isn't a lot of clubs banging down the door.
No.
I still have always thought, and we wrote this today, I think we'll get to the 12 influential figures in the trade period. And Stringer, for me, is more interesting than influential. But I still have always thought, and we've spoken about this a few times, that something could happen late with Jake. I don't think that he'll be a priority 1 or 2 for a few clubs who are considering him, but something could happen late. It's pretty clear that he's on the table. It's pretty clear that he'd be open to a move as well for a longer-term deal. He's got 1 year on a contract that's around about $400,000 for next year. So we wait to see if the Giants explore that any further, but there is that link there, and it is something that has been explored.
Okay, more on that to come, I'm sure, over the next 2 weeks. What about Perryman?
I mean, I always say around the draft time, you kick with the wind a little bit with the noise, and when all the mail is saying Collingwood, when all the clubs are saying Collingwood, you start to think that there's a fair bit to it. But he's still got a call to make. I mean, could he still stay? He's
still got that 6-year deal on the table.
Yeah, which I think is strong, really strong for the first 5. But I think that when you look at the Perryman call as well, unlike Isaac Cumming, if he was definitely leaving a couple of weeks ago, he could have gone like Isaac Cumming and said, I'm leaving, now I'm going to work out where. Yeah. But he hasn't done that, and that's kind of always kept them, in the race, I guess. I still think it's more likely to go. Port Adelaide's had the longest interest. Collingwood's had the latest interest, and also the strongest. We expect that deal to be maybe even more significant than Port Adelaide, so he can't lose. Isaac Cumming goes to Adelaide. The interesting point now will be about the compo pick for him as well. Second round potentially there. Wade Dirksen to Melbourne will be an interesting one to follow as a trade option given his contract status. And Xavier O'Halloran, well, he has, my understanding, strong interest from the Western Bulldogs. We revealed that last week on Gettable, and he has a deal there at the Dogs to take up. He's been through the facility as well, and the Giants will want to keep him. He played a lot of games this year, but he's also a player for the Western Bulldogs, the Targies from the Western region, of course.
And as we wrote about last week, Connor Stone, another one who is uncontracted, but he's had a 2-year deal on the table from the Giants for months now and still hasn't signed it. So I think...
Is that odd?
Clubs are looking at Connor Stone and thinking, what's going on there? Like, if if there's players leaving, there's an opportunity for you. He's been moved to halfback this year. 2 halfbacks likely to leave in Isaac Cumming and Harry Perryman. Why hasn't he signed that deal yet? So, yeah, he's another really interesting one. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks for the Giants.
Feeling left out by the big banks?